Okay, Auntie G, thank you so much for taking time out to be interviewed. We appreciate it, and we need more women's stories.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're very excited about interviewing you.
Mm-hmm.
So our first question, Auntie G, is just basic biographical information about you. So ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਨਾਮ ਦੱਸ ਦਿਓ, ਪੂਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ spelling ਵੀ ਦੱਸ ਦਿਓ, so ਮੈਂ ਗਲਤੀ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਸਾਡੀ.
Full name is Ajit, Ajit,
ਹਾਂਜੀ.
but everybody just calls me Jiro.
Okay.
And Rama, last name.
What was your maiden name?
Dilip was my dad's name.
The
You know, where we lived in Polity, honey,
Hanji.
we didn't have no last names like how they have them now.
Okay.
It was always the father's names.
Oh, I can.
And my dad's name was like Dilip Singh. And our community of Polity was mostly Apne.
Okay.
And everybody went under their dad's names, and nobody had last names.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I will make
Yeah.
note of that. We'll be asking you lots of questions about Faldi once we get there. I'm very excited to hear about Faldi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you just tell me your date of birth and where you were born?
Oh, Duncan, I was born
Okay.
on
Date of birth.
December 9,
Mm-hmm.
1931.
Okay. Your mom and dad's names?
My dad was Dilip Singh.
Dilip Singh. Okay.
Yeah.
Mom?
Mom was Kaur.
Do you know where they were born? Your mom and dad?
Punjab.
In Punjab?
India.
Do you know the pind name or?
Yeah.
What was the pind name of Dilip Singh's birth?
Dilip Singh was Batal, B-A-T-H-A-L.
Okay. Okay. Pind Buttal.
Yeah.
And Karm Kaurs.
Mommy's was Puboa, P-U-B-O. W-A-L.
Bubawa. Okay.
Puboa.
Punjab ji.
Yeah.
Okay.
Punjab.
So Auntie Ji, what generation, second, third, first, are you in Canada? So meaning, are you the first from your family to be born in Canada? Or are you second generation to be born? What generation are you?
Well, just my mom and dad, and then us, me and my brothers and sisters.
So Auntie and Uncle Ji were born in Punjab though, and then they came here. But
Right.
you were the first to be born out of your
I had a sister, hon,
Hmm.
that was born in India.
Okay. Oh,
She
okay.
came to Canada at 9 months,
Oh, okay.
and then she
Okay.
passed away.
Okay. What was your sister's name?
Swanee.
Swani.
Mhm.
She was born in Punjab, came to Canada at 9 months.
9 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Cargo ship, and it took them 3 months to come to Canada.
Wow. Do you remember the name of the cargo ship?
No, I don't.
Okay. Usually it was like Empress of Japan or Empress of
Something,
India, something like
yeah,
that. Hey?
something like that.
ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ like ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਟਿਕਟਾਂ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ? Do you have the tickets or the stamps? You know when you would come from India to Canada? Did your parents keep any of that?
No.
These things are so
Yeah.
valuable. They're so rare.
We lost our parents when we were very young.
Yeah. So you don't have a lot of their materials?
No.
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 Okay. So you had one older sister,
Yeah.
Swani Kaur,
Yeah.
and you had a brother?
2 brothers.
Two brothers.
And 2 more sisters.
Oh, wow. Okay. 2 more sisters.
Yeah.
Can you just give me a map of like who was the oldest, from oldest to youngest, all of their names, so I can kind of map all your siblings out as well?
Oh, well, Swanee was the oldest.
Swani, okay,
She's gone.
okay,
And then it was me.
okay. Hanji, who is that?
And then it was Bakshish Kaur.
Bakshish Kaur.
What they called her, B-E-A.
Okay,
Yeah.
like B-E-A? That's
Yeah.
cute. That's really cute. Okay,
They just
next.
called her B-E-A.
Okay,
And then the next sister was Naseem.
Naseem.
N-A.
okay.
And then she turned her name to Nancy.
Wow. Like actually
I said,
legally changed her name?
Yeah, Nancy.
Wow.
I was
Okay.
so surprised.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Did she feel like there was pressure to westernize herself? Is that why she changed her name? Just curious why she
Just,
changed
I
Is
don't
Nancy?
know what made her change it, tell you the
it. Oh,
truth.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, after Naseeb
That
Kaur?
was my brother, Mahinder.
Mahinder Singh. Okay.
He's passed away too.
Okay. After Mahinder Singh?
And then my youngest brother, same name as me.
Oh,
But he had a nickname that he doesn't know that name. Everybody calls him Duck.
Doug?
Duck, D-U-C-K.
Duck.
I was so surprised when I went back and all of a sudden, Duck, Duck. I said, who's Duck?
Yeah.
Because Mommy had a beautiful name for him, Nani. She used to call him Nani, Nani. But
Yeah.
I was only 9, honey, when I lost my mother.
Wow, so young.
Then I lost my sister.
Wow.
Then my dad, like within 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Look, the 3 went away. And can you believe who looked after us? 5 of us.
Your sister?
Now depended, like in India,
Hanji.
now depended, see, bachelor. He never went back, honey, to India.
And was he living in
Vancouver.
He was living in Vancouver.
Had a body shop
Wow.
with another East Indian, Tondi, the last name.
Yes.
They had a body shop. And every summer, honey, he came to Paldi.
Yeah.
And you know, us kids running, my dad would say that's your chacha, which
Yes.
he wasn't my blood relative.
Right.
But I imagine he must have come with my dad from India. But he came every summer to Paldi. And being kids, all of us 4 or 5, there's a chachas here. And he would bring us candy or oranges, or you know how for kids.
Yeah.
Do you know he let his body shop go after Mommy passed away and took care of us.
And he remained a bachelor his whole life?
Whole life.
Wow.
And then 2 years later, after we got married, he passed away.
Oh my goodness. And you don't know his first name, Tandisi. You just know the last name, Tandi. Do you
The
remember
one
him?
with the body shop?
Yeah.
What was his name? I used to write letters for him. And
Oh.
you won't believe it,
Yeah.
like in Punjabi.
Yeah.
And then he would say, I guess they lived on Victoria Drive. And I would say to him, no. I said, not Victoria. I said, you're in Vancouver. He's in Vancouver. No, no, no. He said, this is the address. And I still remember that.
Wow.
We had an awful childhood.
And so you were 9 years old when your mother passed away. Between 9 and 14, you lost your mother, your father, and your
My
sister?
between 9 and 15.
Between 9 and 15.
5 years. Within 5 years.
Wow.
Mommy's appendix ruptured.
Oh.
And my sister had TB.
Wow.
And my dad had a mill accident.
Oh, wow. Did he work in the Mayo Lumber Company?
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah.
worked for the Mayo family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayo, when I was little, I still remember the mill in Mayo was running 3 shifts. Dad always took the day shift. And then when that mill closed down, the Mayo's bought between Paldi and Lake Township, when they called it Summit Lumber. And that's where he got into an accident.
And it was a critical accident. Was he in the hospital or?
Yeah, I was in Duncan Hospital 6 days. I still remember I went to see him.
Yeah.
But he was in a coma because it was just
Was it a head injury?
Head injury.
Okay.
You know how they have the lumber pile and planks. Nobody had gravel or nothing there. We all had wooden planks
Right.
in the mill
Right.
and around Paldi, wherever we went. So anyways, I guess the lumber was towards the end of the ledge. And then I guess when you got the pickaroon,
Yeah.
you know,
What's a
he went to get the pickaroon to bring the lumber down,
Yeah.
and then he fell backwards, and down below was the railway track. And he's hit his head. So I still remember when I went to the hospital, Daddy, 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 but he didn't respond.
Were you 14, 15 then, or younger?
No,
were you
I
then?
would have been, no, I would have been 14.
About 14.
14, yeah,
And so all of you children were by yourselves.
yeah.
And the only person who came to take care of you was this man from Vancouver, who you
Yeah.
called Chacha.
Chacha, yeah.
And he would come visit you every so often, or he actually came into the home and
No,
became your
he
caretaker?
stayed. He stayed with
Okay.
us then after Mommy passed away.
Do you have pictures of him?
I know my sister
Would she?
had all the Picture, yeah, there's a picture of me, I remember soon after I got married, when I went back, and there was a picture of me and him,
Okay.
and I don't know if I would have any more.
Okay.
But Mommy, Daddy's, I've got pictures.
You've got pictures. Okay. So I'll just go in order, some basic questions, and if you have stories that come in your mind, please feel free to share experiences, stories that stand out to you, because I'm sure you have your own unique experiences as well. But can you tell me a little bit about your family's immigration story? Because you're born and raised Canadian, but what about your dad and your mom? How did they come to Canada? Who, sponsored them? What was their immigration story?
Gee, I really can't tell you.
Yeah, you don't remember.
No, I don't remember.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But you know that did they come together when they were married?
No.
No.
No, Daddy came, honey, in 1906.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Dad came in 1906.
This is the Leipzig.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, I often think if my sister was 9 months, and then I was born in 31, I guess he went back, I don't know what year, I guess when he married Mom,
Yeah.
and then I guess they came together probably maybe 1929 or 1930, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not sure.
No problem.
Well,
Did they ever share stories of their journey here, being on that cargo ship? Did they ever tell you stories about that? No.
Not really.
Or your dad when he came in 1906? That's amazing. 1906 is one of the earliest settlers ever
Yeah.
of South Asians in BC. So he was one of the first batches of immigrants to come.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
19.
And did he work in the sawmill industry? Where did he work?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Your dad?
My dad, mostly.
Mostly in the
mill,
sawmill
in the
industry.
mill.
In the mills?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Do you remember why the decision was made by your parents to come to Canada? Do you remember if they ever talked about, why would they want to come to Canada?
I guess to make a better life,
Yeah.
I often think.
You often think,
Yeah, probably just to come to Canada and make a
And-
better life.
And if you can tell me a bit about your kind of birthplace, so you were born in Duncan. Do you remember your childhood years growing up in Duncan? What's some of the earliest memories you have of your childhood growing up? Thinking back as some of those first, it could be 9 years old, 10, whatever your first memory is of Duncan growing up.
Well,
Or
I was just
Baldy.
about Baldy.
Yeah. When did you move from Duncan to Baldy?
Never,
Duncan is in Baldy? No.
yeah, as far as I know,
Hmm.
my sister was born in India, and then I was born in Duncan.
Okay.
And all I remember is when I was born, my dad worked in UBO.
Oh, yeah, okay.
UBO.
Sorry, Harleen, the water's right here, see, in the cupboards.
And
He worked in UBO.
my dad worked in UBO, and just maybe, I'll say maybe, I was so surprised. Just a few years back, a sister that lived in Duncan, she was born in Vancouver.
Oh,
So my
Okay.
dad came out here to Vancouver.
okay.
And then from Vancouver, I don't think we lived in Shawnigan Lake. I don't remember. But anyways, when my sister, the one that's in Port Alberni, she was born in Duncan Hospital also.
Okay.
And then my dad had taken her to Shawnigan Lake. So like I'm
So,
saying,
so your dad seemed to shift from different places.
different places in the mill.
Because of the mills.
Yeah.
But
because
you yourselves and your mom and siblings from a young age always stayed in Duncan? Did
Paldi.
you in Paldi, I'm sorry.
Yeah, in Paldi.
Did you ever live anywhere else or no? In
No.
BC? Always in
No,
Paldi?
just after when I got married.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But
So as a young
after-
unmarried, you always lived in Baldi?
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Can you tell me a little bit about Baldi? Was it a joyful experience? What was your experience like in Baldi? What was that community like?
Oh, really, one of the best. If
Yeah.
they hadn't helped us, I don't know where we would have been. We had a couple living next door, In fact, when I went to school for Mindy, the kids, so we got talking, and I said, hey, did you guys watch your Rifleman? And they say, yeah. Two of them say, yeah. I said, you know that house in Rifleman? That's what I lived in.
Which show? This is a television show?
Television, Western show.
Oh, okay.
Rifleman. It comes on every day.
Okay.
Mindy and I,
Wow.
we love our Western here.
Aw.
Bonanza and
Yep.
Rifleman.
Wow. And it was shot in Thalby.
No. There, I don't know where the Rifleman was shot.
Oh, okay.
But that's what we
Wow.
lived in a house like that.
Oh, you lived in a house like that.
Exactly.
I see.
The way they got the sink and, it's all no paint job or no gyprock inside. Houses are just like in shiplap, lumber.
And what was your home like in Baldy? What kind of things did you have in the house? How big was it? Was it?
Oh, actually we didn't have too much, to tell you the truth, as far as I remember. But when the Japanese were taken to Denver,
Yes.
they had to sell everything, and some of them even left the stuff there.
Wow.
Then I still remember Mummy had bought the couches and a round table and chairs and
For your home.
yeah,
And for your home.
to bring home. And
How would you cook?
how we were cooking?
Yeah.
Wooden stoves, honey.
On wooden stoves.
Yeah, wood.
Okay. And was there like hot water for baths, or did you have to warm up the hot water?
No, Mummy would warm up the water in big pots on the stove.
Okay.
And then in the house we had, when I went to India twice now, I didn't find it no difference. And you know how they got in India the cement, have you been to?
The chulle, hanji, yes, I have been to India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jab that cement to the Jatanol, they bande.
Yeah.
That's what we had in Paldi.
Oh, wow.
So we had a little
Yeah.
stool there.
Yeah.
And I just remember.
And what were the major celebrations in Baldi? Did you celebrate?
Oh,
anything?
every year, honey.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if we're gonna make it. It's 100-year
Jormilla.
Jordamilla.
Yeah.
That was a big deal for
Oh,
all of us. Yeah.
And what was the Jormilla?
Jordamilla was sports they had. Plus, den Kandapart.
Okay.
The Kardin.
Because, was it like a Gurpurb, or what was the reason for the Jormilla? Do you know why that was done? Was it attached to a Gurpurb or like
See, I don't know,
No,
tell you the
okay.
truth.
Okay.
But it was always on this July long weekend.
On the July long weekend?
Yeah.
Around Canada Day time,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah. So it's 100 years this year. And
Yeah.
we were in Victoria, and there, you have to come, you gotta come to the 100-year.
So can
There's
you-
nothing there now.
There's nothing, the Gurdwara is still
No.
there, but
Yeah,
I know they're
that's
trying
right.
to revive it a little bit, especially for the 100th year. And
Yeah.
hopefully they can.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, I also want to go to Jormilla as well, so
Oh,
hopefully I think
yeah.
it would be nice to go to that.
Oh, yeah.
So Auntie, can you tell me what age you got married and a little bit about how, either if it was arranged, how you met your husband, what year? Let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit about your marriage life.
Yeah, I was
You
17.
were 17.
17 when I got married.
And you were still in Baldy at that time?
Baldy.
Okay.
My husband and the family was in Queensboro, New Westminster.
Ah, okay.
New Westminster.
What's your husband's name, Auntie?
I'll spell it for you.
Sure.
Bishan, Beshin,
Okay.
but everybody called him Patty.
Okay. And just
And
same?
even my sister-in-laws, I was surprised, they all got English names.
Wow.
I wouldn't believe Mary, Rosie, Eileen.
Wow. Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Yeah,
But
because your
mind
name
you-
is Jito, which
Yeah,
is a Punjabi.
Jito, yeah.
The nickname is a
And
Punjabi.
then my brother-in-law, mind you, he's Cornell. I got all his sister-in-laws, you
Yeah.
know,
English names.
English names.
And so it was just Bishop.
Mind you, they got East Indian Punjabi names too.
Right, but
Yeah.
their nicknames were English names.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, well, same with my husband.
Okay.
Like everybody called him Patty. Nobody knew him by the other name.
Wow. And did he just go by Singh, Auntie G? Just Bishan Singh? or-
Rama.
Rama, of
Always,
course.
always
Okay.
Rama.
Rama, okay. So who, did your chacha arrange the marriage?
No.
Who arranged the marriage?
They weren't real again. They helped us a lot.
Okay.
You know where Asitandi
Hanji, yes.
related, well, not even, yeah, they're related to them because their husband is the elder. Dad used to say, that's your tai taya.
Okay.
And they were not related, but मेरे daddy दे नानके सिगे in a different.
Aussie the mummy daddy?
No,
Hanji.
my dad's nanake,
Hanji.
they were at Tai Taya, we called them.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Daltapatuyana.
Hanji. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So
Okay.
she arranged my marriage.
Aussie did?
Tai.
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 Mahinder.
Yeah.
Mahinder Thandi.
That's right.
Ah, Tai Ji.
Tai Ji.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
She arranged them.
Okay. She was the bacholani.
Yeah. Yeah, she was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what gurdwara did you get married at?
Pauli.
At the Paldi Gurdwara. Okay.
But it was the older one.
The original.
And then I noticed that I just knocked it down and made it bigger because it's pretty small.
Do you have pictures from the wedding day? Do you have your wedding pictures? She does.
That's her wedding picture.
Picture,
Beautiful. Wonderful. I would love
Yeah.
to see that. Okay. Lovely. And after you got married, where did you and Patty or Bishan Singh move to?
New Westminster.
To New Westminster. And how long did you live in New Westminster?
I lived in New Westminster from 1949 till 1969.
Okay.
When we moved to Surrey.
And after 1969, you moved to Surrey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then from Surrey we came to Abbotsford.
Okay. How long did you live in Surrey, Auntie Ji? Do you remember?
1969 to 1988.
88?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Abbotsford?
And then back to Vancouver when the girls went to the university.
Can you tell me when you were in Abbotsford? What years?
1988.
Hanji.
Came to Vancouver and then moved back to Vancouver. The two girls went to university.
Okay. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਲ ਹੀ ਰਹੇ Abbotsford ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ?
No, no.
No, how long?
From 1988 to how long might I have been married? 2005,
2005?
wasn't it?
That would be 14 years from now.
That's
14?
a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time you lived here.
Yeah.
Wow. And then when your kids went to university, you moved back to Vancouver?
Granddaughters.
No.
Oh, your granddaughters went to university. You
Yeah.
went back to
Yeah,
Vancouver.
her daughters.
Ah, okay, okay.
So grandpa and grandma
But
went
ਤੁਸੀਂ
there.
Vancouver 'ਚ ਹੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ, right? You're in
Yeah, I
Vancouver
live in
still?
Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just tell me a little bit about your kind of marriage life, but also did you get an education? Tell me about the schooling you did as well in Baldi.
I only went to grade 5, honey.
You went to up to
Soon,
grade
soon
5.
as mommy passed away,
Hmm.
then my chacha said, oh, you could stay home now, look after the kids. And my brother still, till today, says, I still remember you getting me up for school and washing my face and combing my hair.
Oh, and how old? So at 14, you became their caretaker,
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Wow. And do you remember that as being stressful or a burden, or it's just something you did? You became the surrogate mother, essentially,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
How did you feel about that, doing those jobs and duties? Leaving
Well,
school, and how did you feel about that?
Well, no, I didn't feel stressful.
Yeah. Roti
We
bhi tusi
had-
pakande si? You made all the meals, you did
Roti
everything? Yeah.
and there was a couple next door to us. They never had a child. Apane, our community, the side we lived on, was all Apane except a few Japanese
Okay.
and Chinese, but majority, I'd say 80% were Apane.
Okay.
So the couple that lived next to us, they never had a child. I bless her, she's passed on. But she's the one, because my brother was still in diapers when mommy passed away.
Yeah.
Taught me how to put the diaper on, and every Saturday, that would be, the three of us, sisters, would get together galvanized tubs we had in those days and scrubbing board.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
would scrub the clothes,
Wow.
hang them on the line.
Wow.
And then Mama, I called her Mama next door,
Hmm.
she taught me how to make a roti.
Oh.
And then I would say to my dad, I said, Dad, I can't get the roti round. He said, no matter what,
Oh.
as long as it's cooked.
Oh.
He always said that to me.
Yeah.
I still remember.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if your dad came in 1906, he would have worked in the bunkhouses, so he must have learned to cook as well. Did he learn? Did your dad know how to cook? No.
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
No. And he used to tell me they used to get 10 cents an hour.
Oh, wow. He was paid 10 cents an hour.
Working. And then he said we'd point out the bread, and for the eggs they would say "Kukudu-kudu."
Oh, no.
I remember him telling me that.
Wow. Did he learn
Yeah.
English over time, or he still just
No,
spoke his mother tongue?
most of those elders, all I remember is Mayo, Mr. Mayo, the big millionaire, billionaire, you might as well say. He knew English, and his brother, Ganda, lived there too. He was doing life insurance.
Okay.
And no, my dad and the neighbor, the rest of them.
But that's why you learned Punjabi then. Your Punjabi is so good. Because I'm assuming your dad spoke it at home. Your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Did you go to Punjabi school in Paldi?
Yes, yes.
Oh, there was a Punjabi
Yeah, there
school.
was a Punjabi school.
Okay.
After school, the English class,
Okay.
we would go to Punjabi school.
Okay. So you can read and write Punjabi?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there was a gurdwara, and was there a church for Gores, a church for Chinese Canadians, and a church for... Do you remember if there were sacred spaces for all the different faith groups in Baldi? Do you remember ever going to other people's churches or faith places? No, because I remember hearing stories. Okay.
Yeah.
But did you ever integrate and, not integrate, but make friends with Japanese Canadians and other ethnic
Oh, yeah, in school.
Canadians in school?
When we went to school,
Okay.
we all walked together to school
Yeah.
and recess time, play softball. And it was like no bullying, no name calling, nothing. No, no, I still remember. Go, stop, that was another one.
Yes.
Marbles.
Yeah. And you all played with each other. Yeah.
Each other, yeah. Morning, recess.
We're kind of jumping, but that's
After
totally
school.
okay. We're going from
Yeah.
Baldi back to New Westminster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're married now, 17 years old, and you didn't have education beyond grade 5. Did you work after you got married, or before? Did you ever have different jobs?
After we got married, yeah, at Queensboro, me and my sister-in-law, we worked in the nursery,
Oh, okay, okay.
planting, replanting greenery into the boxes.
Okay.
And then I worked with the other sister-in-law, Richmond, in a peat plant, you know, where they have those augers, they call them, through the wall. And then we used to fill up the bags and then like seal them. That was just a little while.
Okay.
And then also, New Westminster, Queensboro, I worked in a cannery,
Okay.
fruit vegetable
Okay.
cannery,
Okay.
Royal City, they called it. And then later in years, I worked, we did farm work, got the kids into it, my son and my daughter. We used to come all the way from Surrey to get a ride to Abbotsford,
Oh, okay.
raspberry picking.
Okay.
We
okay.
did in Abbotsford.
Okay.
And before that, when we lived in Surrey, I worked for Correction
Oh,
Canada, BC Pen,
wow. Okay.
and the kitchen,
Oh, wow.
the
okay.
kitchen help.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was it? Was this when you lived in Surrey that you started working for corrections, or you would commute?
Yeah.
This was when you lived in Surrey?
No, when we lived in
When you
Surrey.
lived in Surrey.
I
Okay.
take the bus every morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, go to New Westminster.
And when did you have how many children do you have, first of all?
Oh, one son,
You have one son?
2 daughters.
One son, 2 daughters.
Mhm.
And is your son the oldest, or one of your daughters are the oldest?
No, my son,
Your son's the oldest?
Yeah.
What year was your son born?
1953.
1953. I don't know if I wrote down what year you got married. Auntie G, what year did you get married?
1949.
1949, okay.
Yeah.
And what's your son's name?
Full name or nickname?
Full name.
Full name, Reginder.
Reginder? Okay.
They call him Jim.
Jim.
J-I-M.
Very interesting. Oh, J-I-M, Jim.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jim.
Very interesting names.
Yeah.
And your middle daughter?
Middle daughter's name is, I don't know why we didn't put into Surinder, but then Grandma named her Jaginder.
Jaginder?
Yeah, Jaginder. And then she's
Yeah.
got her name Cindy.
Okay. Cindy, aka Cindy. And your youngest daughter?
She's Delgy.
Luti. And do your children all live in Abbotsford, or where they're all over BC? Where do they live?
Delgy, like, she's in Abbotsford.
She's in Abbotsford, okay.
Yeah. And Jim's in Abbotsford.
Okay,
And Cindy's in Surrey.
okay. And after you had your children, did you continue working? Or did you stay home with them, or did you continue to work after, for example, Rajinder was born? Did you still work?
No, I was working when, in Surrey, they were grown up by then, the
Okay,
kids.
okay.
Yeah,
So when they were grown up, you
Yeah.
continued working?
yeah, and
Can you tell me a little bit about difficulties faced, perhaps, in the workplace, or as you were raising your children, as your husband was working? Did you guys ever face any difficulties, whether it was racism, discrimination? Did your children ever face that in the school system? Or other difficulties?
Oh.
Difficulties.
no, not
Really? Oh, wow. They never came and told you stories of difficulties?
When the kids came from school?
Yeah, yeah.
No, not really.
Interesting. Okay.
No.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience of living in Abbotsford for so long? You must have seen it grow. It is recording, right? I'm so paranoid.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen
yeah.
it change and grow so much because you lived in
Oh,
Abbotsford from 88 until 2005-ish, so 14 years being in Abbotsford.
Yeah.
What do you think of the changes you've seen, maybe over time, of British Columbia? Good changes, bad changes? What are some of your personal thoughts? How our communities have changed? What do you think about?
Well, look at the housing now,
Yeah.
townhouses, condos,
Yeah.
you know, skyscrapers,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But what about the Punjabi community, the South Asian community? How do you think we've changed over the lifespan that you've seen so much? What do you think about the changes over time?
Oh, I think to myself, they're very fortunate
Yeah.
with all the
Yeah.
appliances we have.
Yeah.
And I mean, I thank God every day we got a roof on our head, 3 square meals, and the best thing is happiness and healthy life.
If there's one lesson you could impart on young people, what would be some lessons you would, like, for myself or Harleen or any young people, especially given your life, which is so, you had faced so many difficulties. What is a lesson you would wish to impart on young people? Any lessons, life lessons? It's a big question. What are some life
No,
lessons?
I would say, you know, the young kids now, I'd like to see them get their education, make a career, and to love and to respect everybody, and don't hold no grudges against nobody. Like that.
Do you still keep in touch with the Baldi community members? Is there anybody in Baldi that you still keep in touch with?
Yeah, Joan Mail.
You keep in touch with Joan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I found her a while back.
Okay.
I don't know if you were there that day. Remember when it was in the museum?
Yeah? Yeah, I was
Not
there.
not the late
Was that when you went up to the TV screen and said, "That's me"?
Me, yeah.
Yeah, I was there when she gave. Yeah, yeah.
Then I
Yeah.
phoned Joan,
Yeah.
and honest to God, those books we bought,
Yeah.
it's got nothing in about Polly in it.
Which books are these? Oh, school
The
books?
one, no, the one the lady, that put the slide there.
Oh, really?
Remember?
Yes,
The
I do
purple
remember.
color books?
Kathy Marsden. It was Kathy.
Oh,
Marsden.
was it?
Yeah.
When I started reading it, in fact, I didn't even read it all.
Really?
No.
You didn't think she covered the true story of Bobby?
No. Then I phoned Joan. I said,
Hmm.
Joan, I said, this what happened. I said, I went to this museum and I said, there's nothing in there. Oh, she said, yeah, I know that book. I said, yours is 100%.
Hers is
She
amazing.
made a book,
Yeah.
Joan Mayo,
Yeah,
and hers is exactly
yeah,
the way it should be.
yeah. We have a copy of her book as well. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
it is.
prefer that? You think that book is a good history of Baldi?
Yes,
Shows
it
a
is.
good history.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you
Yeah.
have memories, Auntie, of our heritage Gurdwara in Abbotsford since you were here? What was it like in the 80s when you were here in Abbotsford? Did you ever visit the old Gurdwara? The heritage Gurdwara in Salisbury?
ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪੁਰਾਣਾ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ
ਪੁਰਾਣਾ
Oh,
ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ
yeah,
ਕੀ-
yeah.
Here Abbotsford ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ
Yeah, I'm sure.
ਹਾਂ ਉਹ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਵਿਆਹ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਸ਼ਾਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਕਿਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਦੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ
ਪੁਰਾਣੇ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੈਰੀਟੇਜ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ Abbotsford
ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਾਂ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ
very seldom. ਕਿਤੇ
Grandpa truck ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲਿਆਉਣਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਨਿਊ ਵੈਸਟਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਤੋਂ
Oh, in the olden days?
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, Grandpa, my father-in-law,
Yeah.
he was gone before I got married.
Oh, okay.
And I remember Grandma, my mother-in-law, telling me,
Mm.
every year they used to come to Guru Nanak Dev's
Gurdwara.
Gurpur.
Mm.
It was just in Abbotsford.
Yes.
Just like all the
Yeah.
community. ਹੁਣੇ ਵਿਸਾਖੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਦੇਖ ਲਾਂ we used to go to Victoria too, by the way.
Wow.
CPR boat, can you believe we were on it 7 hours
7 hours?
to go to Victoria?
Wow.
Board at midnight.
Oh my
I
God.
don't know what the boat was doing.
Right?
But anyway, the kids would be my kids and my 3
Wow.
sister-in-law's kids. They'd be jumping around, and remember in those boats they had the bunk bed?
What? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, bunk bed.
Wow.
ਨਿਆਣੇ ਇੰਨੀਆਂ ਇਲਤਰਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ, being young, my
Oh.
mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, we'd all be sitting and not even sleeping.
ਇਹ ਕਦੋਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋ? When did
Way
you-
back in 50s.
In the 50s.
Yeah.
Amazing. A 7-hour boat. And this would be so you could.
CPR boat,
The CPR
they
boat.
called it CPR boat.
And you would go to
downtown.
Victoria for what?
Bisaki.
For Basaki.
Yeah.
Was this the Topaz Gurdwara?
Yeah.
Topaz.
Yeah, Topaz.
Wow. Did you ever go to other communities like Prince George or Golden or other, or just you would stay in the Lower Mainland?
Oh, you mean to Gurdwara?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
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 Okay, you would stay in the Lower Mainland.
Yeah, Lord me.
Quite the trek.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And would you come? You would come to Abbotsford for Guru Nanak's Gurpur. Was that Guru Nanak's
Oh.
Gurpur?
Good
Abbotsford?
for, yeah.
Or did your father-in-law and mother-in-law used to come? You were saying that your father-in-law used
No,
to come.
my father-in-law had a trucking business,
Oh.
and he had a truck, and my mother-in-law was saying that, I guess he would put a bench in the back
Hmm.
and a tarp on the top,
Hmm.
and it used to take them 2 hours to come from Queensboro
Wow.
to Abbotsford.
To Abbotsford.
And
Wow.
he'd bring all the ladies and the kids.
Oh, wow.
That was before my time.
Before your time.
Yeah,
To come to this Gurdwara?
yeah, to Abbotsford for the Guru Nanak Dev.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your father-in-law's trucking company name? Do you remember?
Rama, like
Rama.
Rama, but then they changed it to Westminster Wood Company.
Oh, wow. Okay. So your in-laws have very deep roots in British Columbia as well. They've been here for a long time as well.
Oh, my in-law, oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
right?
I imagine so.
and their name should have been Sherrill, their last name.
From Sherrill to Rama. How was it changed to Rama? That's a whole
Again,
story.
the same thing as being called by first name,
Oh.
but the last name should be Sherrill.
Oh, how interesting. Okay. Are there any traditions that you wish you would pass on to your children or grandchildren or great grandchildren even? Any traditions that you're very proud of in terms of your community, Punjabi traditions or South Asian traditions? Anything that you wish you would pass down to them? Perhaps people don't do anymore?
No, I would just like telling you, I'd like them all to get their education
Yeah.
and make a career
Sure.
for themselves
Okay.
and teach them to love, respect everybody.
Yeah. Are there any other stories that you wanted to share about growing up in Baldi, your movement across British Columbia, anything that is a really important story that you would like to share growing up maybe in Baldi? Do you find that Baldi is one of the most strongest memories you have of growing up?
Growing up, yeah.
Those are your strongest memories of Baldi? Why is
Yeah.
that?
I
Say,
guess
like if you were
when-
to talk to a child who had no clue what Baldi was, and you had to explain to them, this is what Baldi was, what would you say about Baldi? Why was that place so amazing?
I guess everybody lived like one big family. There was no high society or, picking on somebody. No, it was just like one big family. And look at the males had everything
Yeah.
in those days,
Sure.
40, 30. And those kids, honest to God, I give them credit.
Yeah.
They were just normal like we were.
Yeah.
No show off or no, that we got more than what you guys got. No, none of that business. So like I'm saying, growing up in Baldi was nice.
Yeah.
Except, like I said, losing my parents, of course. When you hear the other kid, oh, my mommy, my daddy. And it just be kind of heartbreaking, but then what can we do?
But your strength and resilience is amazing. Like you becoming the caretaker, and that's why we wanted your story.
Yeah.
We often don't think that our stories are valuable, but what you had to do
Yeah.
once that happened is so amazing and it's motivating. It's
That's
incredibly
what it's
motivating for women like us. It's very motivating.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with us, Auntie G? Anything you wanted us to include in the interview? Or do you feel like we've covered quite a bit?
I think we covered
Do you think
quite a
there's
bit.
anything missing that Auntie
Well,
G should
for the Mayos, they were very welcome to go visit the Mayos and use a telephone, or there were get-togethers, there were picnics and so forth that she hasn't told you about.
share?
The May Day was celebrated, and it was a community that was non-color, even though you had the Caucasians, the Japanese, the Chinese, East Indians, they blended and worked together.
I heard somebody else refer to it as the mini United Nations, and
Yeah.
I was like, that is such a perfect fitting term for Baldi, this idea of so many people who are different,
Oh, yeah.
but celebrating kind of the humanity,
Yeah.
the singleness of everybody. That's really powerful.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Auntie G.
Oh,
If there's
you're
anything
welcome.
you feel that you missed, no problem. What I'm going to do now is Harlene's going to transcribe the whole interview, word for word, and then we'll create a story based on Auntie G's, and I can send it to Mindy to edit, just in case I've missed anything. So we'll make sure it's a perfect fine-tuned narrative
Sure.
for Auntie G.
And, if you
Oh, and by
You
the
can
way, I
stop.
cut out about Saturday names on it.
Well, you want to show me?